Welcome to Becoming Spiritual, a podcast about the magic that surrounds us and has always been a part of us. I'm your host, Heather Dolan, a passionate seeker dedicated to bringing together beautiful humans who are doing amazing things in this world. Together, we will explore healing modalities and practical spiritual practices that can enrich your everyday life. We will also hear stories of awakenings, many from people in the corporate world who have broken out of the spiritual closet. Wherever you are in your journey, know you have found a community of open-hearted individuals committed to making themselves and our world a better place. Welcome home. Welcome back to Becoming Spiritual. Today, I am joined again by Crystal Roberts of Watermelon Wellness. So you might remember that she was one of my most recent guests. We dropped episodes on January 16th and the 23rd, where Crystal and I talked about divorce, self-discovery, holistic healing, and then the other episode was a bonus episode where Crystal shared a channeled message for the collective, which was really powerful. And now today, we are talking about retreats and all of the magic that's created when we gather with one another. They say when you gather with 3 or more people, it creates a really special container for healing, for discovery, for magic. And so because Crystal and I are hosting our own retreat together in May, we thought it would be the perfect time to talk about why. Why do we do retreats? Why do we take time away from our family, our jobs, other commitments to go on these journeys? And so we'll talk about some of our learnings, the joys that we've experienced being in retreats, why we think these containers are really important, and how we've decided to create our own container and bring in different modalities and things that we want to see and experience ourselves. And so I hope that you enjoy this episode and that if you are interested in learning more about our retreat, you can go to becomingspiritual.me. All the information's on our website. We would love to have you if you feel called. If this resonates with you, that's really important. You want to make sure anytime you're going to give your time and energy to something that it truly resonates with you. So we are grateful that you are here and listening. And if it's not our retreat, just plant a seed that maybe 2026 is the time that you find a retreat, even if it's somewhere local. And if it's not something that you can find, maybe you create one yourself, just like Crystal and I did. So we hope you enjoy listening. And if you feel called to share this with someone who maybe loves retreats or would be interested, or you think they need to go on a retreat, then please share this with them. And as always, we are so grateful to have you here. Welcome back to Becoming Spiritual. We have a special episode today because we are joined again by Crystal Roberts from Watermelon Wellness. I'm so excited to talk about this topic today. I'm like jumping out of my skin. So happy to have you back so soon, since we just dropped our 2 episodes in the last couple of weeks. But we had to come on to talk about something we both love and are excited about, which is retreats.
Yay!
Okay, so we're going to talk about retreats. We both have been to many retreats. Crystal has run retreats. We're going to talk about something that we're doing together. So I want to start with just first sharing, why do you love retreats?
Oh my goodness. My favorite thing about retreats is that it brings people from across the world. I mean, probably mostly from across North America, but truly we've had attendees at workshops come from so many various places. And without these retreats, it would be unlikely that you would be able to share space in person with these individuals with just the most beautiful, beautiful energy. And that is my favorite thing, is connecting with like-minded people who have beautiful gifts of their own that you discover together, and you learn so much. Like, even if you're the one facilitating, you end up coming away with having received so many gifts from the people that come and participate, because everyone is a treasure in their own right. And I just love feeling their energy. And I have left every workshop with lifelong friends, including you. You and I met at a workshop as well. And I just wouldn't have that opportunity probably to connect with people that aren't more in my local circle unless we do these retreats. And I feel like people end up being called for a reason to join those events. And when you get that energy swirling together, it's like, oh, this is why, because it just creates this really beautiful vortex of what everyone seems to need in that moment of time.
Yeah. Oh, you captured that beautifully. And I would say the same is as much as we go for quote unquote the topic of whatever the retreat is, which is just like I don't know, the teaser that like pulls you in. But then when you're in these containers with these individuals, and totally agree. I mean, as much as social media brings us together a bit, there's nothing like being in person in a room with people and having these spaces that are really, they just become really sacred spaces to share and to be vulnerable. Like it's amazing what people end up sharing at retreats. I can't tell you in some of the small groups that I've been a part of where people have never shared something with anybody or they've never spoken something out loud. And to
Yes.
feel like you have to feel really safe. And also, there's probably a feeling, if I had to guess, for people where like, hey, I might not see these people again, so I can share this and maybe get it out and start processing and integrate whatever healing or messages are coming through or have people share messages if they're open to it. But there's some freedom probably in that as well. But also, I think it's so beautiful when I see people come together where they travel together and they're friends. And usually one is pulling the other along of like, I've been on this journey or path and I wanted to explore this. And my friend literally has no clue as to what we're going to do here, but they just were willing to come with me. And they're like my ride or die, or they're just adventurous. And so they said yes. And here we are. And I love when those people who are just like, what is happening here are so open. And then they're like, I had no idea that any of this stuff existed or was possible. And my eyes are open and this was so fun. And it was a bonding experience. So I love seeing all that little magic and like sparks that happen when everyone shows
Mhm.
up and gets together. And so, as much as you can focus on content or whatever, it's always that connection in the community. And we all know, especially now, we are being called to be in community with one another. And I think now more than ever, being together, not separate, like on a screen or just DMing through social media, but really showing up together and being able to hug and be in your energy field and break bread and do ceremony together, whatever that is. It's so powerful when we gather in groups.
It is. I feel like we're missing a bit of that in our more modern world where you talked about with social media. And even though you can reach out and connect with thousands of people potentially online, you're actually missing that sense of community that used to be so prevalent in latter periods of time. And getting people in a room, I think it sort of ignites almost that ancestral feeling of community, which I feel like are missing.
Mhm.
And it just, even speaking to who ends up coming to these workshops, we had a beautiful woman who invited her husband because she was fearful of driving. And so he said, I will drive you. I'll come to this workshop with you. And he had really no idea about what he was walking into, but came to support her. And I love that too, like you said, because it's beautiful to see people on their different timelines as far as their spiritual evolution and just what they can offer to those of us that might have been along this ride for a longer time, but they have a nugget that you haven't thought of or a different perspective. And people have you open your eyes to looking at things in different ways. And I just love who it brings. And that is the piece sometimes we're missing with the social media and not being in connection in a shared space because there does tend to be more of this debate that's elicited when you're sitting in a room with someone and your ideas can be questioned or you can expand on it with shared experience versus someone just putting something out into the world with their more linear train of thought. And it really just creates this expansive environment that I love.
Same. And I think, one thing that we know is shifting in the collective too is this call for community and moving back into these spaces of community. And I was just actually listening to a podcast yesterday with Jamila Jalil. I hope I'm saying her name right, the actress. And she was talking about how she's lived in like kind of a commune community living situation for years because of how she grew up. And she's like, we're not a cult. We don't do any crazy stuff. We just support one another. We're all friends and love one another and we're there for each other. And she's talking about how they're actually right now, they're taking a break from their multi friend living because they're purchasing a big piece of land and there's going to be like 20 of them all living together in community. And she's like, we're helping each other. And, we're not sister wives. We're not like eating dinner and someone's doing all the laundry. And she's like, it's not like that. But if you want to gather with people, they're in close proximity and they're people you want to surround yourself with. That's how, our ancestors were. Everyone lived
Yes.
in close proximity and you were able to help with child rearing and chores or things that you did need to do. Or maybe, you just need a break and need to have some alone time and have someone help you with whatever. So I feel like I've heard this more and more of this community coming together. I know some other people in my close community here have talked about wanting to buy land and start some kind of community center to bring people together. It just feels like there's a lot of that bubbling up right now. And I think back to what you said about people come from all over the world to come to retreats. And again, usually if you're traveling that far, it's probably because it's someone that you follow on social and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so called to be in this person's presence or whatever, which is what we, certainly experience. But traveling and having that sacred time too is so important because as I've shared with many people, when I come to some local retreats, you're there, you do this like amazing work or you connect with these people. And then if you're leaving and, I'm kind of going like right back into my 3D responsibilities, my phone's blowing up on the way home, I'm hitting traffic, I'm like, feels like I'm unwinding all the peace and sometimes emotional things that I want to process and unpack and I need some time to integrate. And it's like, boom, like a Mack truck right back into reality.
Yes.
And while it's beautiful and sometimes from a cost perspective to be able to do a daytime thing or not have to stay over and have that extra expense, totally understand and appreciate that. But I also think when you have more of a retreat environment that you can stay and be in that container and have more time to process or journal or unpack things, have some alone time, go in nature, wake up with the sun or do some yoga or whatever it might be, it just compounds your experience and probably the wealth of knowledge and healing and just the work that you're doing while you're there. Because even if you feel like, I don't even know what I'm getting here, there is work that's being done on so many levels. There's the frequency of everyone being together where you might be shedding, you might be helping hold space for others. No matter what it is, when we gather, all of our frequencies are coming together. People are getting what they need. And so don't doubt that, I think, because I think sometimes we think like, why am I here? Or why was I called? I don't know what the purpose is, but there's always a purpose when we're gathering.
I agree. And oftentimes I feel like when we book these retreats, we're called to go to a certain location to hold them because it holds some sort of beautiful energy there as well. And Arkansas specifically came through in a channeled session that I did with Sarah. And they said, Arkansas doesn't get enough recognition within the world for the beauty that it contains. And we want you to go there because we believe people need to start coming to the specific location and feeling the energy that resides there and connecting with all it has to offer. And so when you go to a retreat somewhere else, you come and you share space, yes, with all of these beautiful individuals that show up for the retreat itself, but it also gives you the opportunity to connect with a land or a community that you might not have otherwise, and also leave an imprint of your energy there while also, I feel like, taking up the beautiful energy that it has to share. So I love what that piece offers as well.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that because when I think about the places that I've gone to in the sacred space, the land is always talking to you. It's one of the first things people come onto a property, and especially if they're more in tune maybe with getting those messages. Or sometimes people are like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel like stuff is talking to me, or I feel like my head is like kind of spinny or whatever. And property is just like anything, all have energy. And with our history, especially in the United States with our country and everything that's happened with indigenous people and war and, all of that is imprinted in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that energy is there. And Mother Earth, we know, is rapidly healing to be able to carry a higher vibration. And so these places that you're talking about, which we're going to talk specifically about Arkansas in a second, but we are meant to gather in these places to also heal the land. And so being outside, walking the land, you're leaving, like you said, this energetic footprint. You're grounding into the earth. Mother Earth is healing you, but also you're reciprocating by also putting your energy into that land, which maybe held bloodshed or other traumas that needs healing. And so
Mhm.
we can offer that back as a reciprocal kind of energetic exchange to the land. And that in and of itself could be while you're there. I've definitely gone places and thought, I've kind of gotten the message where I'm like, gosh, I feel like I'm not really jiving. I'm not sure why I'm here. I was really excited to be here. And then I'm there. And number one, I probably had some certain expectations. And so I think it's good to release those
Mhm.
because if you can just be open to the magic of like, I'm feeling called, I'm going to show up as I am and let whatever magic happens, happens. I think that's the most beautiful way to go into any retreat space because you're just going to get so much more out of it. If you're not like, oh, I have to make sure I do this or do that. If you're just open, all the magic, the synchronicities, things will just align and it'll be great. But I have definitely gotten the message of like, you're actually not here for yourself. You're here to hold space. And then, of course, you kind of find out quickly, like, oh, this is it. Now I know. I had to just give this message or be there for this person. Like it makes sense now. But not knowing that ahead of time, you just wouldn't know that because you don't know who's going to be there in your energetic space. And I also have gotten it was to be present with the land as well. And so I do think that plays such a big part in these retreats for sure.
Agree.
So thank you for that. Anything else about retreats? I mean, I think you could talk to everyone who's at a retreat space, and probably everyone will give you a different answer as to what they are walking away with because it's so personal. It's so much what you needed. Maybe a lot of times we don't know what we need. We know what we want, but we might not know exactly what we need. And then we actually get what we need, but we didn't know it at the time. But you know, chances are you are going to get what you need. You might not get it in the way that you think or the way that you wanted, but chances are you are going to get what you need from it, which is why I think sometimes when people come to spaces and if they're not resonating with the energy, they choose to leave,
Yep.
which I also think is really brave because I know that happened at a recent retreat where a couple of people were just feeling off and whether it was something with them or the energy or whatever, I also think that's a big lesson in boundaries and listening to yourself and honoring yourself of like, if you know something is off and it's not going to be the right time or space for you, I don't think there's more you could do to honor yourself than to listen to your voice and your intuition to do that. I think it's pretty rare.
I think it is rare that people leave, but you were reading my mind in the sense of the boundary conversation because that was playing through my mind too, is that what I see a lot of times after these workshops is that people feel strengthened in their ability to place boundaries within their life that they may not have before. And so someone that attended one of our retreats, like we usually create a group chat and she had been quite quiet for some time and just said, I felt that I needed way more time to integrate what had happened than maybe some of the rest of you did who were popping on here right away and wanted to share experiences and was very clear that she had not allowed herself that time and space for that previously. So I think sometimes you come away with a recognition that you have the right or deserve the opportunity to place the boundaries you need to have healing more integrated and just in general, like we all need time to recover and process our days and what's happening in our lives. And I feel like people do put up boundaries a lot easier after this. And one of the workshops that you referenced, one of the people that ended up leaving had been at a previous workshop and stayed for the whole 3 days, loved it so much, had come back to
Yeah.
join another workshop at the same location. And like you said, after that first day, just thought, you know what, my energy just is not feeling like this is quite the right time or
Uh-huh.
quite the right space for me this weekend and did make the decision to not come back for those last 2 days. And I did agree. I think that was incredibly brave and very intentional and purposeful and aligned with the energy and what she needed at that time.
Yeah, for sure. Because most of us would say, oh my gosh, I paid for this. I'm staying. To
Exactly.
be able to say, like, you know what? The universe is abundant. They'll provide. I was meant to come here for something. And maybe it was just for that lesson of like, am I going to honor what I feel, whatever's happening? That can be just as powerful.
I agree.
You know, you already mentioned this, like the friendships, the people that you meet that you might never cross paths with in a substantial way. You still might cross because energetically if you're meant to meet at some point, it's going to happen. It just might be down the road and maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. And so obviously we are all brought together and called for a reason. But I do think the follow-up of seeing, especially in the groups, like things that shift and change for people. Sometimes it's immediate where they're like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened. I kind of put this out there during the retreat and all of a sudden this happened and this happened and this happened and I can't believe it. And I feel like so much shifted for me and everything in between. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum where people need more time. And then it might be like months down the road, as you were referencing, where they're like, I just needed time and space and a lot shifted and changed, but I felt brave enough to leave my relationship that I knew was toxic, or that I was able to put up more boundaries with family members, or, whatever it is. But you see so much. It's like setting the domino, tipping the domino over, getting it started is the retreat. And then so much of it starts to just align after that. Like it's such a big activation as a group. There's no way you can gather in a group and not have some kind of frequency activation, shift or change or whatnot, because when we're all in each other's energies, it's always going to reflect either messages that you need, experiences that you need for you to learn and for your highest and best.
I agree. And I love what you said earlier about just coming with an open mind. I find like that is most helpful, and just see what comes through and be open to sharing. And the creation of that openness just creates magic.
Yeah, all the magic. So speaking of the magic, we are going to be co-hosting a retreat together in the location that she was previously with our friend Sarah, hosting a retreat in Arkansas. It's on the water. And I'm just so excited because we're going to be connecting so much to the land. So it's May 1st through the 3rd, which is Beltane. And also there's a full moon. And so Beltane is this beautiful time. It's May 1st, so people call it May Day. And when you think about May Day traditions of old, there was like the maypole where people would dance around the maypole and have ribbons and flower crowns. And that's all related to Beltane, which is very much a blessing with Mother Earth. I know, thinking ahead to one of the activities, I'm so excited. I want to make flower crowns that we can wear and do some type of ceremony or ritual in the evening under the full moon, because I think the fact that those two things fall on the same day is just no coincidence. And that the house wasn't available for the original date we were looking at. And this was the weekend. And then when we saw that, it was like, yep, well, that's why.
Exactly.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about like what the experience is going to be? Because I'm there to help co-create and be the sidekick, but Crystal's going to be the main performer in this retreat show. So
Oh, you're funny. You'll see how it goes. It's just, yeah, it ends up being just this co-jointly created thing by everyone that attends.
Mhm.
And you know that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But thank you for that. This location is very special. So like you said, it is on a body of water, and on either side there is so much nature that's abundant and around, so we can do nature walks. And not a far drive from there are some beautiful hiking trails, and the water just speaks to you. So we will be doing some water ceremonies. There's a lot of outdoor space with fire pits for fire ceremonies. And there just is this beautiful energy, like I said, in the state of Arkansas that I wasn't aware of until I went there. And I'm so glad I went, and have been telling all of my friends and family, you really do need to go to Arkansas. It is super, super special. So that in and of itself, I feel like the minute you land at the airport, you can feel that. And then making your way from Bentonville, Fayetteville to Bella Vista, where this retreat will be held, you get to just feel the energy and the pull to this very specific location. And when you open that front door and you can see the water right from the view of that space, I think you're just naturally drawn out to make that connection with Mother Nature and with the power of the water. And then, loop that in with all of the beautiful ceremony and sharing and storytelling that we're going to do. And it just makes for a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah. And I think most people, you hear Arkansas in Bentonville, and right away, of course, you think of Walmart, because that's the home of Walmart. That is true. And I love what you were sharing with me before we started recording about the original store there and actually how much they have in terms of like organics and produce and things like that, because I don't see that in like our local Walmart. So I don't tend to shop
Mhm.
there as often. But yeah, I think being in this space, it's the Ozark Mountains. There were crystal mines, right? Quartz mines, I think, at one point there.
There still is. So more in the Little Rock area, but Arkansas itself is built on a bed of crystalline energy of this quartz crystal, a bed of quartz crystal. So talk about magic and why you just feel the energy of the place. So yes, it draws all of that. It draws the energy of the mountains and the forest, those provincial parks that are nearby, and then that crystal energy that is just radiating up from the earth. So super, super special.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. And so we're going to be honoring the earth with a Beltane ritual and just sharing more about what that is and what it means, and even tapping into the moon's energy. A lot of people I know will have their own practices, or they'll just blame the moon when it's a full moon because everyone's going bonkers or traffic's crazy or something's going on. And it's like, what is that? And there is such a great amount of power that comes from the moon. And so if we can learn to work with that and flow with that, we really can benefit from it. But I think we're used to, in kind of modern day times, just blaming everything on the moon for creating chaos. If we actually can learn what it's actually doing for us and for humanity, I think most people would see it very differently. So I'm excited to just kind of spend some time on that. But we're going to be doing, you're a QHHT practitioner, and so doing a regression with some group sharing. But I'm really excited about, if anyone has not listened to our episode on Crystal's channeling, she's going to do a channeling session for everyone there where you get to ask questions, which is just amazing. It's just so mind-blowing every time I hear you channel. But a cacao ceremony, you do reiki and sound bath. So much healing and so much just, I think, calming our nervous systems, because we're all
Mhm.
just so overtaxed most days. All you have to do is open up your phone and look at social media, and all of a sudden you're triggering your nervous system. Your blood pressure is probably rising. And so being in this space, this beautiful natural space, to be able to ground in the earth and be in the water, be in nature, be in the forest, there's nothing like it. And for us, we've kind of curated this so that we've got morning programs from 9:30 to 1:30 every day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then afternoon and evening activities, we've outlined some things that we plan on doing, but it's completely optional. So if someone feels called to go hike in the woods to one of the waterfalls or whatever, they can go do that. We're going to do some forest bathing, and we're going to do the flower crowns, and we're going to do a little field trip to this really cool architectural chapel in the middle of the woods. There's so many things, but allowing people time and space. If you don't get the chance to read, or you want to journal, or you have cards, or you're working on a project, your soul project that you haven't had time, and you just need extra time and space, and you want to be inspired. That's what all that afternoon, evening time is, with nothing forced, and an opportunity to connect with community, to share meals, to cook together, or to just spend time around the fire pit every night, just talking and sharing stories. That's how we learn. That's our history. We learn through storytelling. We learn through hearing others' experiences and seeing ourselves in them and wondering, oh my gosh, it's not just me, and feeling supported and loved. And I feel like that's the byproduct of retreats. But I'm so excited in this container to have, some of these amazing programs. I know someone else is going to do a self-worth meditation, lead us through kind of a journey, because for me, as I've shared on the podcast, self-worth comes up daily for me. And so to have something that's focused on that, I'm very excited about. But also the group sharing, having time to share with one another and reflect, is one of my favorite things, is being in small groups and getting to know people more intimately, but also, again, possibly being able to voice things that maybe you have never shared with anyone before, and just you feel so safe and seen that you can do it in that space. Really looking forward to that.
I love that part too. It usually ends up being one of the most well-liked pieces of the retreats that we hear of. And, just you mentioning the individual who's going to do the meditation on self-worth, it just reminds me of why we actually decided to do this retreat the way we are, for all the reasons you just mentioned, but also because when we were there in Arkansas last time, the property itself and the location just calls you to want to connect with it. And if you're have a very packed agenda from morning until evening, you lose the ability to make that choice for yourself a little bit of, oh, I think I would have rather just grabbed a paddleboard and spent time on the water this afternoon. Or, like you said, head out and do a beautiful hike because there's so many around. And also, there seems to be in these workshops, like I said, people that arrive with so many beautiful gifts of their own. And that happened last time when we were in Arkansas. We had another channel that came who is very talented, Lee, who is going to do our self-worth meditation. And they wanted to share their gifts with each other as well. And there just wasn't time to do that. So by leaving that afternoon a bit more optional, you can either join the activities that we have prepared or, work with each other and share the gifts you have or all of those other beautiful things you mentioned. I think it does allow for that option to just make it a bit more personalized to exactly what it is that your soul is calling you to need. So I haven't done a retreat like this before where the agenda isn't a full day, that it does have that optional element. And I'm really, really excited to see how that goes.
Me too. And I think once we get there, we'll want to flow and it'll be like, hey, we are going to do this, but feeling the call to do this right now. Maybe at some point we all just need to jump in the water because we just need to cleanse and get rid of some, who knows? Like you never know what you're called to do. And that's the fun part is like this, let's just go with whatever's showing up and just be authentic, be yourself, be in this state of flow and openness, open heart. And I think I should say that's where all the magic comes in. We allow that spaciousness in our life, in our day. And most of us don't get to do that. We're not able to do that. And so I think going back to like the beauty of being able to stay for this retreat, we have a lodge with rooms. And then we also are going to be booking a second property that's right next door. So everyone's really going to be on the same piece of land. But we have so many people who are interested and want space in the lodge, but being able to just be there. And again, it's not this pressure of I have to do something or I'm going to end up like cooking meals for everybody. It's sharing space and being able to remain in this kind of container that the retreat builds energetically as you all arrive there. And so being able to stay in that and not have to leave and worry about your Uber getting lost or not finding wherever you're staying or having to navigate whatever that looks like. That's also what I feel really called to because I know when I've been able to stay on site at places, I'm able to just really integrate while I'm there and not lose the lessons or think like, oh, I would love to have spent more time journaling, but I have to leave because it's over. So I've got to get my car and drive. And it's like, if I could have just had an hour to sit and maybe not even think, but maybe cry or maybe, whatever, just bask in the glow of whatever magic might have happened. And so I think that's a huge bonus of hosting these things where we have the ability to actually have people stay on site and be together.
Oh, yeah. It becomes like this almost like slumber party, like individuals who weren't able to secure a spot at the lodge. That's what we heard over and over last time. Like, I don't want to leave. And suddenly you are in a room with your new 20 best friends and you don't want to leave each other's energy. And so by having a room there, you don't have to. And it was just so fun to watch again because I was facilitating. I was like, okay, I have to get to bed at a certain time so I can make sure I'm mentally prepared to lead the group tomorrow. But then other people were like, I'm staying up till 2 a.m. because I can't stop talking to this individual about what's going on. And when I get up in the morning, other people who are much more earlier birds than I am would have already been in the kitchen. They were in their house coats together, sipping on tea or coffee. And I just thought, how special is this? Because again, if you're staying somewhere else in a hotel room by yourself, you don't have that opportunity to start your day with each other or finish it with each other. And I will say you don't have to anyways, even if you're staying in the house, there are so many spaces for that alone time for you to allow yourself to integrate everything or process everything as you need to. But the opportunity exists for both. So you can be with all your new best friends or you can take some time alone, but you're not having to make the decision to forego any of it because you're not staying on site. So it was super, super special.
Yeah. Oh, can't wait. It's not that far away yet. It is not totally around the corner. So for anyone who's listening to this, if this is calling to you, if you are interested, please reach out. We have everything on the becomingspiritual.me website. There's a retreat button so you can submit a form if you're interested. We are keeping this to a smaller group because we don't want to overload both the house and the space. So we want to really be mindful. So this isn't a retreat that's going to hold, 40 people or anything. We're going for 22. That's our number. And amazingly enough, we're probably close to halfway there already. And we actually didn't advertise it or put anything out into the world officially until today. So
It's true.
it's amazing. It's just the universe is going to bring us all together. And what I would say is if by the time you listen to this, if for some reason, you were interested and we're not able to accommodate this time, I have a feeling that we will have many other opportunities in the near future to do other things. So please still reach out because we will be curating kind of a mailing list, if you will, for any future events. So please still reach out, inquire. We would love to hear from you. And also maybe it sparks you to look at other retreats. Our friend Sarah does retreats all over the world and she does sacred pilgrimages to Egypt. She just went to Hawaii. Crystal's been a part of other sessions in other places with her. And so there's lots of people doing retreats. And so I'd say the most important thing and something we should say is just make sure when you are looking at something that it really resonates with you. I think that's really important. And like I said, I love when people show up and they know nothing about it. And what resonated with them when their friend asked was just that they wanted to be with their friend and they trusted their friend. And they were like, yes, take me on an adventure. But for me, if I look at a retreat, it needs to basically be like a hell yes. Like, yes, I'm going. And that happened. I'm going to one over Lionsgate down in North Carolina with a group that I'm a part of. And it's going to be it's 150 people. But the second the email came through, my whole body lit up like fireworks. And it was like, I've got to go. And if you're like, I don't know, then, maybe that's not the one. And that's okay. Because it just means universe is making space for what's coming. And also Stephanie and Beth from The Serpent and the Dove, who have episodes on becoming spiritual. You can check out their pages. They lead really sacred pilgrimages as well across the world to heal the land. That's a big part of their mission. And so I definitely would suggest checking out the retreats and work that they're doing. I can speak to them in their authenticity and the love that they are pouring into all of their events. And so just make sure if you're looking at these things that you feel really called, you feel comfortable, you're just so excited that, like me, you're just ready to jump out of your chair at the thought of being there.
Or I will also add, just again, being open to the nudges. And maybe it's not the biggest nudge, but we had an individual who came to the last Arkansas workshop and her friend called her. They hadn't spoken, I think, in a year or something. And she just said, I'm going to this workshop and there's something that's telling me that you should come. And she's like, oh, really? She's like, I don't know much about this world. Okay, let me think about this. And then she just said, you know what? I think you're right. And she didn't know why or why she was being called. And it wasn't like she was completely lit up because she just wasn't aware of this whole spirituality world. And she came with her friend and she got so much out of it. And so sometimes it's just being open to those nudges.
Might be a quiet whisper.
A quiet whisper.
Might be a quiet whisper and not the fireworks. Like I said, might not be fireworks every time. So yes, you are right, because it might plant a seed. A quiet whisper could plant a seed that maybe you can't get away from. Maybe it keeps coming up. Or then all of a sudden you're seeing whatever the topic was or the town or state, all of a sudden you're seeing it like a license plate's in front of you and then something else happens. And that's all confirmation from the universe that it's probably meant to be something you need to do.
I agree. I love that.
Yes.
Yes. So however you feel called or nudged, if you can make it, I am going to tell you that you will be welcomed with open arms, that we will be so excited to see whoever arrives and know that the group that comes together is meant to be there and just can't wait to share in that energy together.
And the healing and the love and all the things. So it's going to be amazing. So if it's not our retreat in May, that's okay. But hopefully we inspired you to look into some type of retreat because so much magic happens. And so highly encourage if you have the opportunity and privilege to be able to do that. And maybe you create your own. Maybe if you're not seeing something that you want out in the world, you get together and create a small group event on your own, just with some friends or whatever. It doesn't have to be a big formal thing that you invite strangers. You can go retreat on your own. And if someone has a house somewhere, you just go stay there and go with the wind and flow and see what magic happens. So it doesn't have to also be something that you have to go to and pay for. It could be something that you create I don't know, in your backyard. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so be open to all the options and be creative. And we are grateful that you are here and open to listening to our perspectives. And it's only two of lots of people out there who have had these experiences. So if that's something that calls to you, that you will find a place where you make sure that you feel really loved and have the opportunity to potentially heal and just have some spaciousness. We all need spaciousness right now, for sure. So,
Love that.
Crystal, thank you. I'm so happy we could just have this little chat together, talk about retreats. I'm over the moon excited, over the full moon excited for
Yes.
for May. So to everyone listening, hopefully this was an insightful, short little episode for you to plant some seeds for you if you felt called to community and you have felt like you want to find your people, your tribe. Retreats are an amazing way to do that. I hear that all the time. I was looking for my tribe. I'm feeling really alone. I promise you go to a retreat, you will definitely find some of your tribe for sure. So
100%. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your precious day to listen to our podcast. If this episode resonated with you, we would love for you to share it with someone you love. That would mean the world to us. Also, if you feel called, please follow our show so you will know when a new episode drops. If you want to go one step further, you can even rate this episode as it allows our podcast to find its way to others. Lastly, we've done our best to share resources that you might find helpful in the show notes, whether that's a book recommendation or a website we referenced during the episode, a free resource, or more information on a guest who took their time to speak with us and share their knowledge. We would love for you to support their work too. You can find more information on our podcast website at becomingspiritual.me. We love you and can't wait for you to hear the next episode. Until then, know you have a place where you are welcome and you are loved. Welcome home.